All right, let's go. Let's get this cracking. Unleash the Kraken. Hey, it's Robert Phoenix. What's happening? It is 9:13 here on 11/3. This is it. This is the day where our destiny theoretically unfolds for us, and reality is theoretically unveiled. So, hey, there's Christine and Joe. We got people. People are here. People are arriving. It's kind of an amazing process, actually, to do this. And it's sort of like, I don't know. It's like you guys are all manifestations of my mind, right? You're all manifestations of my mind, and I'm a manifestation of your mind, and none of us really exist. We're just playing roles in each other's theater of consciousness. Kind of is that way on some level, isn't it? How people show up and how they play certain roles in our lives, even if we're not aware of it. So, with that said, I'm going to act like you're real fucking people and move forward just because, well, that's part of the rule of the game too, isn't it? All right, let's see. Who do we have here? We got Christine and Joe and Jennifer. What's happened? There's Kestrel, the fifth Waller. Let's see who else. Lisa Marie, Jan Augenstein. Good to see you, Jan. JP Love, Laura D. There he is. Thor by the door. Luciana. Hi, Luciana. Lils. There's Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Email me your address. I want to send you something. Okay. Christy Tesmerk in the house. Hope you're staying warm. Way up yonder, Christy. Michelle Taylor coming from the other side of the country where she's almost always warm. Nice to see you. Tina Sherman's here. There she is. The one and only Ani Burrito, the wench with the wrench. JMP Love, Ticia, Ian Barber, Danica, Uncle Glenn, my man, what's going on, Glenn? Sigurd, Frank Bry. Hey, Frank, good to see you. Cousin Yoda. Imagine all the people. I love that. Good line. DJ MC in the house. There he is. The most interesting Christian I know, Charles Mazak. Let's see. Terry Marine. Hi, Terry. Marie MacArthur. Nancy Harding's here. There's Mary Black. Hi, Mary. Joe Mama. Joe Mama, what's going on? And T-Girl. What's happening? Natasha Lloyd. It may be cold where you live, but Natasha, your heart always keeps it warm. Good to see you there. Let's see. Who else do we have? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Going once, going twice, going three times. Woke up to snow on the ground here in Quebec. Double V in the house. What's happening, Double V? V2. Craig Corporon. Hello, Craig. Good to see you. Okay, I think we're about ready to start to say, oh, there's Jan Emily. Hi, Jan. We got a couple of Ottawans. Ottawans. How do you say? How do you pronounce Ottawans? Ottawans. Is that how you say it? Hey, the Cribbies are here. The Ottawan Empire. You know, I was watching John Levi last night. I was watching one of his. It's about a year old. It's some stuff on the Civil War, and my God, you know the fiction of the Civil War. The fiction of the Civil War is like off the charts, man. It is totally off the charts. The Civil War really needs to be revisited. Totally needs to be revisited. The whole idea of these, these cannons, and I mean, my God, if the Civil War needs to be revisited or is revisited, it throws everything into a completely different equation, including, believe it or not, slavery. All right. So if you haven't seen John Levi's videos, I highly recommend them. At the very least, they're entertaining. And you may not agree with everything that goes along with the Tartarian timeline or the Tartarian motif, but it will certainly pique your interest and raise more questions, and it gives answers. And the questions are very important questions to ask about the realm that we're living in. Lots of stage photos. Absolutely. And kind of like now. Good. What did you say yesterday, Steve? Steve? What did you say when when I was talking to you when I was getting gas? But if you could, Steve laid something on me yesterday that was like so fucking funny. Seems our whole history. I would agree with that. Our entire history needs to be revisited because, for the most part, it is a scam and a sham. A scam. Hey, Mark Matheny, what's going on, brother? Mark is my antipode, by the way, a very good astrologer himself. I hope you're doing well with your fantasy teams this year, Mark. You know, speaking of fantasy, I watched okay, I don't know why I did this because I'm a masochist. Because say everybody give Mark a nice welcome. I've known Mark through Facebook for a number of years, and he's actually been on my show a couple of times, and he is really the exact opposite of me astrologically. 29 Virgo, 29 Pisces. So the circuit is complete. I don't know why. I'm a masochist. I watched an NFL game last night. For the first time this year, I watched an NFL game because, well, let's just say I had an interest in that game. And what I saw was shocking. I hadn't seen any games. Really. Like maybe I've seen snippets. I've looked at stats. But I watched a game last night between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New York Giants. So I think they were playing in, MetLife Stadium or something like that. Wherever the Giants played, there was nobody in the stands. There was not one person in the stands. And ESPN is like piping in fake crowd noise. The whole thing is just bizarre. It's like the theater of the absurd. Now they're using the NFL as a plank, as a propagandistic plank for COVID-19. Now they want the players to wear masks on the sidelines, like the coaches and the training staff and all the other monkeys that are wearing masks. You know, and so I watched what, about 2 quarters, a half, maybe a little over a half of football, and it was, and the transmission was really weird too, very weird transmission. They came out of halftime, and you don't normally see this, but there was a whole series of plays that the Giants made or didn't make, for that matter, and they didn't even play them. I've never seen that before. They had a whole series of plays. And meanwhile, by the time they come out of halftime, it's like the Giants have had the ball, and now the Bucks have the ball. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? You know, what's going on here? And what was interesting is that they would go to the game for like 5 seconds, and they'd go out of the game and they'd play a commercial. I was like, what is happening here? It was absolutely, utterly absurd, bizarre land. So that'll be the last football I'll be watching this year. And now what they want to do is they're talking about having a 16-team playoff. See, they want what the NBA has. They want to have a bubble. You know, they're all going to play all their games in one place. Where are they going to play all their games? You know, somewhere in some dome stadium somewhere, maybe in the South. Maybe they'll play all their games in the bubble in the Superdome and maybe the Reliance Stadium in Texas, down in Houston. The whole thing is just fucking ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I got a lot to talk about today, a lot to cover. This is it. We are at ground zero, and it is on. I'm going to talk about the election, and I'm going to talk about the whole kind of idea and status of government and why it is, in some ways, a monstrosity, a grotesquerie, and a perversity. And at this time, a unfortunate sort of, how do I say this? An unfortunate ally that we have to have some kind of relationship with. And there's a reason why. So let's get this started. Let's kind of set the space and clear the space. And let's get going here, dear blessed and holy Mother, Father, God. Within the great central sun, which is the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua Sanando Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information, truth, and wisdom come through this channel at this time. And in so doing, we are blessed and graced by the qualities of patience and forbearance, commitment, fortitude, flexibility, compassion, empathy, understanding, self-awareness, situational awareness, perspective, discernment, enlightened detachment, passion, creativity, novelty, invention, imagination, beauty, grace, laughter, humor, empathy, compassion, and above all, love. We ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from the stream. All right, let's get cracking. So, I have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, and really no particular sequence, and hopefully it will all come out here over the course of the next hour or so. Let's see, where do I want to start? Let me put some stuff up here. Okay. All right. Let me talk a little bit about government and why this process has been in some ways quite painful to watch, and why we are now wedded to this thing in a way that is on some level relative and important. It's not the complete and utter total reality of our experience. Let's just put it that way, okay? Let's put it that way. Because we could be having different experiences in different places amongst different people all the time. I mean, this is, and I know this sounds kind of trite, but it's true. I mean, one person can be living an experience that is completely, I would say, blissed out or untouched or, conscious and aware, and their life is unfolding and working accordingly, while another person is mired in suffering and regret and resentment and having to deal with the restrictions of their environment. And there's no reason why people can't adjust their inner compass in some ways in order to accommodate a different reality or to accommodate a different interface or perceptual reality with the world around them. Now, it takes work to do that. It does take work to do that, but it can happen. It can be done. And it gets into this whole idea of creating one's own reality to some extent, right? To some extent. So, we're not all sharing the same reality. We all have a touch points or nodes that we can agree upon, but we're not all sharing the same reality. And I think first and foremost that's really important to understand. And if we're not, it's like yesterday when I got into the whole thing with the sovereign movement and, the parse language, parse syntax and quantum now and all that stuff, right? All those people are trying to do the same thing, but they're not sharing the same reality. They're all invested in some form of liberation. And you know what? I think I have a better camera here. Let me see if I can get this other camera on. It's a little fuzzy. It's a little foggy. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I'm not liking the camera thing here. Yeah. All right. I guess I'll just roll with it. For whatever reason, it's not picking up on my better camera. Anyway, I mean, the whole thing with that community is that they all share the same nodal touch point. Like they all want to be liberated. They don't want to have to be constrained and consigned to the rules of contract law or the rules of charters or any of that stuff. Like I get that, right? But each one of them has their own separate reality, and each one of them has their own kind of variation on the theme. And there's a lot of infighting and a lot of bickering and really not being on the same page. And that's a really good example of like sharing a similar space. They all share a similar space, but how they interpret it and the mechanics and what they do in order to get there, that's a completely different sort of set of like outcomes, right? Completely different set of outcomes. And it's interesting to witness. And again, I'm going to put a bow on this, on the quantum language and sovereign stuff until I get another guest on. And Steve is working on getting somebody from Crow's World. I think a guy by the name of CL, and he seems to be a person that has a handle on it. So, I'm going to open some space for that and try to, see if there is actually somebody who has some molecular integrity with this thing so that we can get a kind of a more baseline picture. I still think there has to be a hack. I'm going to talk a little bit about the hack. It has nothing to do with this whole sovereign piece. The challenge with that movement is that it's a very individualistic movement, right? It's about you, and it's about how you're going to be free how you're going to separate and dissolve these bonds, these contract bonds, from birth, which I believe is true, by the way. But it's an individual movement, and that's why I think it suffers when it comes to having these disparate and various groups who are not on the same page, because it starts from this highly individualistic space. And we are, for the most part, by nature, an individualistic culture, that our goals, our dreams, our aspirations have been shaped and modified and enculturated around what we can achieve, or theoretically how we can express ourselves, right? So that's part of who we are. But we're at a point in time now where we're going to have to kind of reimagine that. As we move into the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, we're going to have to find like-minded people, like-minded spirits, souls that reflect our own intentionality. And when that happens, I think we have a much better chance of being able to experience the individual liberation and freedom. Now, this is outside of the control structures that are being lined up for us. And I'm going to talk about those control structures today. Obviously, the World Economic Forum, obviously Klaus Schwab, et cetera, right? So in that extreme world, government has absolutely no sway, no power. There's nothing that tethers you as an individual to the Capricornian or Saturnian world of governmental contract. All right. This is really this is what happens. You were liberated from that, and you were a free woman, or you're a free man, you're a free person. So in that realm, government doesn't even exist. And in my world, that would be a really great thing. Although we are living here within the fabric of a contextual society, contextual culture. So we need some things to sort of hold us and bind us together. Sort of like, what is that shit? Guar gum. You ever look at that? You ever look at that ingredient in certain ingredients? Guar gum, GUARGUM. That it binds things together, right? So we do need some things that bind us together. But do we need this titanic, completely kind of oligarchic superstructure of government to bind us together? Well, in my world, perfect world, the answer is really no, right? That really what the government's role should be in this realm, in this three-dimensional realm, if we have to interface with it at that level, it should be very limited. Really what it should do is regulate interstate commerce, have a standing army, have borders, negotiate treaties, and that's really about it. That's about it, right? And everything else should exist mostly on a state and local level, because what happens in California, although my mother lives there, doesn't have a lot to do, and Michael lives there, doesn't have a lot to do with what's happening here, right? So, I mean, and this has been something that's going on for a long time. Unfortunately, that has not happened. And now government has metastasized, right? It has metastasized to this point where we're staring down, in the realm of duality, these two candidates who are, really just sort of the antithesis of one another, but they both represent something similar in their own way. And it's that they are the answer. And as much as I think Donald Trump is interesting, these rallies, I've never seen anything like it before. It's like the Beatles meet Pope John Paul. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. I've never seen such enthusiasm for one individual, period. I mean, he gets more buzz and he gets more heat than LeBron James and Kevin Durant and Cam Newton and Tom Brady combined. You put all those guys together, and Trump is, he's a massive sun compared to, them being Mercury or tiny dwarf star. I've never seen anything like it. And in some ways it's good, right? I talked about this yesterday. I talked about the judgment card, and people are essentially awakening from the slumber of their coffin life-like experience. And we're all doing it, and sometimes the awakening process is awkward, and sometimes it kind of looks, how do I say this, a bit different from different perspectives. But there is an awakening happening, right? There's an awakening happening. But the challenge here is that there's this idea that whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's Donald Trump, that the government is going to save us, right? That one individual, one group, and one ideology is going to save us. And I think that is an inherent danger in the system. Like, we're investing way too much in that, way too much. And at the same time, we've gotten to a point where, guess what? Now it's almost, we have to push it all in. And as much as I would like to completely divest and deconstruct that whole process, it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, because the people who are engaged in that process are deeply invested in it. So they're going to continue to move this thing forward and keep it alive and keep as much polarity and opposition as possible alive. But again, since we're dealing with Gemini, and today there is a Gemini moon, there is another side to that. And the other side to that is that we have never faced a more dire global threat in my lifetime, or perhaps in any other lifetime, than where we are right now. Using the twin plank of intersectionality and the idea that there's something that's called white privilege, and using that as a hammer against the West, an ideological hammer against the West. And on the other side, using the COVID or the corona virus restrictions and lockdowns, what we're seeing is basically a left and a right and a left and a right and a left and a right. And it's delivering body blows and punches, hard body blows and punches against Western society and Western culture. And we know that Klaus Schwab and the people that he works for, Klaus Schwab is not an independent agent. Klaus Schwab is he's a doorman. That's what he is. He is a doorman. He's a guy in a tuxedo that shows up at events, and he dances really well. He's a great ballroom dancer. He lives in Switzerland, and I guess he climbs the Alps, and has his reputation of being this kind of superhuman in some ways. But he's really just a doorman, and he's holding the door open for the people that he works with and for that originate in the Fertile Crescent, and he's a doorman for the other people that he works for, which is the CCP in China. That's all Klaus Schwab is, but he is somebody that personifies a threat. Personifies a threat. And there are a number of people that personify a threat. And whether it's Klaus Schwab or whether it's our buddy from The Who, and I'm not talking about Pete Townsend, although I would say he's a minor threat. Tedros. And we have Bill Gates, and we have Fauci. We have a whole cast of villainy out there. And they're playing a role, but they're playing a very dangerous role because they're invested in a certain model of reality, and we're watching it take place right before our very eyes. We're seeing a type of tyranny we've never witnessed before, okay? So we cannot at this point discount the fact that maybe, perhaps, on some level, there is somebody who might be able to, from a position of power and authority, stand against that. And I'm not completely buying into that model because, number one, it all starts with me and you and our particular consciousness and how we evolve and how we interface with reality. And then we branch out from there, and then it's with us, right? It is with us. So I have a real strong connection and root in that world. But I'm also seeing what's going on globally. And the problem is that when people stand up, they change the game. They change the playing board. Now, and I'll give you a couple of examples here. I'll give you three. For a whole year, Hong Kong was, every single night. I mean, they are out. They're protesting. And the Chinese theoretically have a problem on their hands. Now, they don't want to go in and start cracking skulls on the protesters, although they did some of that. They did that through the Hong Kong police. So the Chinese had a real problem there. Let's go across the world. What about France? You had the Gilets jaunes, or the yellow vests, and they're coming out every single day. They're out protesting because Macron wants to up the price of fuel and fuck with their lives and insert the Agenda 21 and the New Green Deal austerity model, and people are not happy. They're not happy. So you have those two things going on simultaneously, okay? And these are ongoing protests. People are restless in England. The whole Brexit thing just keeps simmering and simmering and simmering. And then you have Theresa May, who's just going to get me started. And now you have Boris Johnson. And I'm sorry, England, but you have some real issues with that man. You have serious issues with that man. He's. I'm going to show you something with England. I'm just going to show you what we're up against now. This is big stuff. So we have a cast of villainy. It's kind of like, where all the villains get together, all the super villains get together, and they sit around this round table, and they talk about how world domination is going to, occur. And the people that we see are the faces of villainy. They're not the true source of the villainy, right? We're just seeing the faces of them. They're the doormen. They're the bagmen. They're the henchmen, which we never really get to see who's behind those people. And those are the people who are driving this new reality to ultimately take every single fucking resource on this planet and have it for themselves and give you the idea that you will be free and you will have nothing and you will love it. That's what it's all about. This is where it's all headed. And we've been talking about this for a while now. So, could Trump theoretically be that one person who could stand against this onslaught of globalistic domination tyranny? I think possibly. But I also think he would have a much more vested interest if he can run that thing, right? So I think Trump would be okay with being a globalist if he could run the globalist game, because that's what Trump always does. What's really interesting? I saw an interview with him on Larry King. And this is from the 1980s, and he sounds just like he did then today. But back then, he was railing against Japan, who was killing us in the trade deficit. And he was railing against Japan, and he's railing against Saudi Arabia, basically saying, look, these people they're killing us economically. We're going to be bankrupt as a country. Now, this is pre-1999. So this actually falls into this idea of the insolvency of the USA in 1999, which Russell J. Gould brought up, which I believe to be true, by the way. So Trump was all over it. And at that time, China wasn't a power. It was Japan. He was squarely taking Japan on. He's been consistent. He's been consistent with the messaging. No matter whatever you think of the guy, he's been consistent. And there he is right now. So we're at a time where we have to make a stand. We have to make a stand. We're watching countries fall right and left. We're watching Australia fall. We're watching New Zealand fall. Our friends in Canada are having stricter and stricter lockdown measures. Let me show you what they're doing in Liverpool. My God, this is shocking. This is absolutely shocking. And Darren Williams, my good buddy who lives in Liverpool, is having to go through this. And they check this out. Everyone in Liverpool will be tested as armed forces arrive to launch first whole city testing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're up against now. This is what we're up against now. The powers that be are going to employ armed forces to forcibly test people. And that's just the first step. That is just the first step. What happens if they forcibly inoculate after that? I'm telling you, we are on the precipice of something that we have never, ever, ever witnessed before in my lifetime, or perhaps any other. All right, here we go. I'm just going to read you a little bit of this. Everyone living or working in Liverpool will be offered regular COVID-19 tests. Regular? Oh, what does that mean? Are there irregular COVID-19 tests? Or are they offering tests on a regular and consistent basis? The first whole city program in the country with rapid turnaround tests available across the city from Friday. 2,000 military personnel will arrive in the city later this week to roll out a huge program of hundreds of thousands of tests as Liverpool becomes the center of the government's new strategy to fight the virus. What fucking virus? What virus? The virus is up here. That's where the virus is. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has talked of rapid mass testing as offering a moonshot solution. The fuck? Moonshot. Ridiculous. The plan will begin in Liverpool this week. Local leaders who have been working with the government and put the city forward for the crucial pilot program in the hope it will drive down infection levels and potentially mean an easing of restrictions before Christmas. They're just holding that little Christmas carrot out there, aren't they? Just holding that little Christmas carrot out there. Just go ahead. Take the test, and we promise we'll ease the restrictions. We'll ease you can spend time with your family, and you can have your bread pudding, and maybe a few good pints. You know, just go ahead, take that test, and we promise we'll ease it all up. It's a bunch of bullshit. You know, it's sort of like, you know, you're in prison, you're in a jail, and the warden is basically saying, hey, look. If you're a good little prisoner, we'll give you a few little goodies on the side. We'll give you a little extra yard time. We'll give you, like, I don't know, another hour a day yard time. Yeah. And you can smoke some cigarettes too. How's that? Liverpool residents and workers will be tested using a combination of existing swabs as well as new lateral flow tests. Somebody's making a lot of fucking money off this shit. I'm telling you that right now. All the testing, the new lateral testing, and the flow kits, and the swabs. Klaus Schwab. Here we go. Klaus Schwab. There's a meme for somebody. Turn his head into like a giant Q-tip. Klaus Schwab. And then we have lamp technology. Ooh. What the hell is lamp technology? Duty deployed in Liverpool University hospitals. They just love this shit, don't they? They just love it. They love their new little electric toys and their chemical toys. The pilot will help to inform a blueprint for how mass testing. Do you think that once they do this, that they are going to stop? You think when okay, we got enough information. Looks like we beat this thing. See you later. Sign up. No. It's going to be ongoing. They want real-time data. They want to know what that vaccine does, how it's interacting with you. Let's do a little test to see how you're doing with that vaccine. You really think they're doing it to understand the efficacy of the vaccine? No, they're doing it so that they can understand how it's working inside of you. And they can get real-time data and say, well, geez, you know, this person really hasn't given up this concept of individuality and this whole concept around God and stuff. We got to tweak that a little bit. The next shot we give them, let's add let's drop the Quaid down here. And why don't we bring in I tell you what, why don't we bring in the earthworm? Let's bring in the earthworm mold on this one, right? I mean, this is what they're going to do. I mean, they will, and how they'll do it is they will understand, like, through their great deductive prowess and powers, they'll understand how certain groups will respond to the vaccine. And so they'll be able to make very specific, yet broad data assessments. And when they do that, they'll just create. They're looking for commonalities. They're looking for things that link certain groups together. Why? So they can create mass batches based on, guess what? Group response to the vaccine. That's what they want to do, because in a lot of ways, it gets a lot easier for them. So let's say they're able to isolate a group out that is still has this idea that they count and they matter, okay? And they're able to find that. They're able to figure that out. Then they can tailor make a vaccine for a very specific group. They know who that group is, even if it's spread out. And there's probably about, I don't know, maybe what about, let's be generous here. Let's say there's about 15 different phenotypes, right? Or 15 different haplogroups. And so they're now able to create like batches across haplogroups. And that's really what they want to do. That's what they want to do. They want to create batch solutions for phenotype and haplogroup. All right, let's keep going. If successful in Liverpool, the program will be rolled out across the rest of the city, of the region, and then in other areas of the country. It is hoped that the mass testing program will give cities like Liverpool, in this instance, a much clearer picture of the number of cases in any one area. They're testing for the common cold. Testing for the common cold. Now that's interesting. I got to check that out. The more people who get tested, the greater the accuracy of the local picture. Oh, you see? Do you see what I'm talking about here? The greater the accuracy. They're not talking about COVID cases. No, they're talking about very specific targets. The greater the accuracy of the local picture. They're looking at groups. They want to lump this thing out so they could have about 14 or 15 different variations of the vaccine. And then guess what happens after that? There's going to be more testing. It's all one giant open air laboratory experiment that we're in. This is the Tuskegee Institute, where they essentially were injecting Black American males with venereal diseases, and the Stanford prison experiment all rolled into one. That's where we are. Testing will be carried out in sites across the include a large number of new sites determined by local leaders. There will be a variety of ways to book a test, including online walk-up or by invitation from the local authority. Doesn't that sound pleasant? Hi there. We'd like to invite you. We'd like to invite you over for a test. You know, maybe we'll have a little bit of tea, maybe a crumpet. Come on over. Come on down. We're the local authority. We're going to invite you. You think you're really going to invite them? By invitation. It's like some fucking party. It's a horror party is what it is. That's ridiculous. Testing will be carried out in new and existing test sites using home kits. Oh, guess what? You get your home kit. In hospitals, care home settings, and schools, universities, and workplaces. Positive results for tests will be collected by NHS. Test and trace and published as part of the daily case numbers, including how many positive cases are detected with this new method of testing. Results will be received from NHS Test and Trace via text and email. Anyone who tests positive using either a lateral flow test or an existing swab test must self-isolate, along with their household members immediately, and their contacts will be traced. Those who test negative will need to continue to follow all national guidance. You see, they use the word guidance, right? Guidance. Those are guidelines. They're not laws. Those are not laws. Follow all national guidance. It's interesting. Language does reveal things. Guidance. Right. These more advanced tests will help identify infectious individuals who are not displaying symptoms. Oh, so what we're going to do is we're going to find something inside of you. Oh, yeah. We're going to find something inside of you so that you will have something, because you look healthy, you appear healthy, but guess what? You're not as healthy as you look or appear. There's something fucking wrong with you, and we're going to find it. And when we find it, you're in big trouble, buddy. Big trouble, and so are your friends. Those who test positive, contacts who are required to self-isolate will be entitled to the £500 test and trace support payment. In the same way, regular swab tests ordered. So you get a support payment. Oh, so you self-isolate, and they're going to reward you for self-isolating. The test and trace support payment. What they're doing is they're moving the cattle into UBI land. Okay? They're moving the cattle into UBI land. Around 2,000 military personnel supporting the huge testing program will arrive in Liverpool from Thursday. So we're not talking about people in lab coats. We're not talking about, nurses with their nice little hats on their head. No, we're talking about guys with semi-automatics and flak jackets and looking a hell of a lot like, the mercenaries are going to take out, it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger group, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I keep wanting to say Terminator, but it's not Terminator. It's the other one. That's what they're going to look like. They're going to look like mercenaries. It is early days. Okay, here we go. Let me just keep going here. These tests will help identify many thousands of people in the city who don't have symptoms, but can still. They're going to figure out that you are a carrier and you don't even know it. And so we're gonna put you on ice. And we'll pay for it, though. Don't worry about it. We'll pay for it. It's okay. Sit around. It's the new dole. Depending on the success, in Liverpool, we will aim to distribute millions of these new rapid tests between now and Christmas and empower local communities. What they're going to empower local. Yeah, what they're going to do is they're basically going to tell these guys who are running the local communities, you do whatever the fuck it takes to get this shit done. If you do that, we'll make you, for one, you won't have to do the same thing those people have to do. But number two, we'll pay you for it. We'll pay you handsomely. Just go ahead, sell your soul. It's okay. But trust me, you'll have a much better time than they will. And you want that. Believe us. It is early days, but this kind of mass testing has the potential to be a powerful new weapon in our fight against COVID-19. Health Secretary Matt Hancock said last month, we set our ambition to use the latest mass testing technologies to bring this virus under. Everybody's just like fucking loves technology. They got people wrapped in, the cell phone. Oh my God, great technology. And all these wonderful labs. Right? So they're blending this idea of technology. The idea of technology allows me to transmit to you right now with these other technologies, which are very different than the one I'm currently using to some degree, but it all blends it together with this idea of technology. Technology becomes this code word, and people, especially younger people, have been entrained to dig technology as a novelty. All right. Using 500,000 of the very latest rapid tests, this rollout can help suppress the virus and give residents and workers some peace of mind. Some peace of mind. I was just thinking about Sean Connery again. And it's the Sean Connerys and the Clint Eastwoods, and these people they're not necessarily heroes, but they are archetypes. And these are archetypes that are dying. They're dying. These archetypes are dying. And these archetypes are being replaced by other archetypes that are, let's just say they're much more pliable. Let's put it that way. And Liverpool, the home, Liverpool is the home of my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was raised in Liverpool. And I believe she was actually born there. And her mother was from Ireland and moved to Liverpool, where my grandmother was born. And they had a fish and chip shop there. So I have direct roots, and I still have relatives, even though I've never met them, in Liverpool. So I have Liverpudlian connections. My feeling around this is you got to do everything you can to, let's just say, retain your sovereignty. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. There are different games to play, and you don't have to play every game that you're being initiated into. You can choose to play a different game. And that's how I'll contextualize the real challenge that you in Liverpool and the rest of the world is going to face. This is the threat, right? This is the imminent threat. It's the imminent threat. And here we are. It's election day. or selection day, or however you want to parse this thing or parse this thing. And if Trump somehow, look, I think that in a normal election, this thing is no contest. It's a fucking landslide. And but we know that this is not any normal election. And neither did the shoppers at HEB yesterday. I went in there because they have a mailbox and I was dropping off a letter. And I thought, well, let me top off on a few preps, a few things that I probably should get, but I don't have. And I went in there. It was like fucking the day before Thanksgiving. I swear to God, the place was packed. You know what I was seeing leaving that store? Lots of water, lots of toilet paper, lots of paper towel. Like it's in the air. People think, if shit goes off the rails, I better have some things that I can, get through the crisis with. Yeah. And there was this woman, she was buying all this, canned sparkling water. But I'm sitting there watching her. She didn't have a mask on. I'm sitting there watching her. It's like, 1 case, 2 case, 3 case, 4 case. So I decided to give her a little shit. I said, be sure to leave a few for the rest of us. And I was just messing with her. She went, ooh. It's like, I said, she said, I just really love this. I love this stuff. I said, it's good. It's good. You just have to watch out for the aluminum in the can, but it's good. It's better than all that sugary shit. But it was off the hook yesterday. Gas station off the hook, man. Everybody's getting gas. Everybody's feeling like this is it now. We are really inching up to that Maginot line, and it's going to be very, it's going to be a day. It is going to be a day. And Biden just keeps doubling down, and his campaign manager said there's no way they're going to accept the outcome. There's no way they're going to accept the outcome. So, we could be in for a pretty significant standoff here. I do think that by the eclipse, by the solar eclipse, it'll be done. It'll be decided. It'll be over December 14th. That's when the solar eclipse is. So there's a lot more to talk about, and I could go on and on and on about this thing, but really, it's not really Biden and Kamala Harris, although they are symptomatic of something. It really is the worldwide and global tyranny and lockdown, the medical tyranny and the medical lockdown. It is Klaus Schwab. It is the World Economic Forum. It is the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It is the reset. This is what we're dealing with. And if Trump does somehow get elected, he is going to have to put this thing in his fucking crosshairs and take it on. Right? He's going to have to take it on. And if he doesn't get elected, if they flip the script and it's Biden and Harris, then we are going to be on a fast track. We will be on a fast track on that program, and we will look very quickly like Australia, New Zealand, and our friends in Canada. So we're on notice with this. Do I think Trump will win? I do think Trump will win. I think he'll win. And he clearly and squarely has very key and significant people in his camp. And I'm not even talking about Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. I'm talking about people you don't even know. And these are people that are behind the scenes. But he's been campaigning like a fucking madman. And there's some interesting signs. There was this thing that happened in Traverse City last night. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to play something a little humorous. I want to play something a little humorous. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I got to play this for you guys. I got to play this for you guys. This is hilarious. I think one of the most interesting people in the world is Randy Quaid, the not so good looking brother of Dennis Quaid. We all know that Randy Quaid came out against the star fucker, the Star Killers, and just wild, total and complete madman. And he's portrayed that in his movies. By the way, if you ever want to see a really good movie, watch The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson. That's where Randy Quaid makes his acting debut. It's a fantastic movie. And I think one of Jack Nicholson's better films. I saw that as a kid in the theater with my parents. I was totally taken by that movie. And so check out The Last Detail. And you'll see Randy Quaid, pretty much make his screen debut. All right, so I'm going to play you something from Randy Quaid's Twitter feed. This is going to crack your ass up. All right, let me get the volume thing on this. Ready? Here we go. Watch this.
America is gonna crush it for Trump. America is gonna crush it for Trump.
One more time.
America is gonna crush it for Trump.
That is classic. Am I bent or twisted by admitting the fact that I'd love to have Randy Quaid as a neighbor? Like I want to live next to that guy. I want to live next to that guy. I want to hang out with him. I want to have barbecues with Randy Quaid. I think that'd be like classic and over the top. Dennis Quaid, probably not so much. Yeah, not so much. He's the pretty boy. He's the pretty boy in the family. So nah. But Randy Quaid, little entertainment there, right? But there are some interesting things that I ran across. You got to check this out. Sometimes there are signs, right? Sometimes there are signs. There are signs in the sky. Speaking astrologically. So Trump had his last stop in Traverse City. And I want to show you what the sky looked like when Air Force One landed. I want you guys to check this out. Look at this. This is not photoshopped at all because I've seen the video. Look at this. I mean, this is kind of epic in terms of atmospheres. Now, who knows? Maybe they had a nice little chemtrail dusting that day, which made the sky, kind of bleed orange and salmon and saffron, right? I mean, maybe that's really what it was about. But you have to admit, it's pretty spectacular. Like that shit doesn't show up when Joe Biden lands in North Carolina. This is spectacular. And you could say, well, it's a red wave in the sky, quite possibly. But if I'm looking at this, and I'm a religious person in that sort of Christian religious sort of way, this is a sign. This is a sign. Now, apparently, there's some video that goes along with this as well. So what I want to do is I want to find that video just to show you that it is not, and this isn't Gretchen Whitmer's state. I want you guys to check this out. I've never seen anything like this before. I've never seen, and you can actually see sort of the red sky, the red sky as Sean Connery passes away. Sean Connery being the star of The Hunt for Red October. So I'm going to show you this. The sky here is fantastic. And the crowd in Traverse City, just like all these other places that Trump has stopped at, has been just absolutely off the charts. Check this out. Now, whether or not you buy into the propaganda, like the best is yet to come, whatever, you cannot deny the fact that this guy's got some drawing power. I mean, people are freezing their ass off. This is not like North Carolina where Joe Biden sort of strolls in to the midnight train from Georgia, and there are a bunch of people sitting in circles waiting for him to deliver his latest sense of incomprehensible sentences. He's got this great ability to run words together like I've never seen before. But you can't fake this shit. You cannot fake this shit. These people are cold, right? And they've come up to gather here to do one thing. It's to hear this guy talk and say something. That's it. I've never seen anything like it before. And of course, in the background, you can see that the sky was actually that color, that it was essentially bleeding red. So is that a sign of things to come? Look, at the end of the day, I'm much more, again, in the kind of the individual camp. Less government is way, way better. Way better. But if we have to choose between whatever Trump brings to the table, we know what Biden-Harris brings to the table, and it's not good. It is not good. Then, I'll roll my dice. I'll roll the dice with Trump, and we'll see where this thing goes and try to evolve accordingly along those lines. Now, one thing in Trump's favor is that he kept saying, oh, we'll have a vaccine by this time and by this time, by this time. And guess what? We haven't. And Alex Jones has pointed this out, and I would agree with this with Alex Jones, is that Trump has commandeered the vaccine process. Like, he did not allow Bill Gates to run the vaccine scam and sham. He took control of that. Now, whether or not he's going to take control further by basically pulling a Liverpool remains to be seen. Okay? Remains to be seen. I'm all about results in real-time perception and reality when it comes to stuff like that. Okay? But he's basically held this thing off. He's kind of dragged an anchor around it. And I'm like, for now, I'm okay with it. For now. If this thing gets sorted out and he's president, then guess what? We're going to have to move on fast. And then we're going to have to take on our enemies on this planet. And I've already outlined who they are. And taking them on is going to be a bit more difficult in some ways than, landing a ground force, say, in, I don't know, Sarajevo, like what Clinton did, and, NATO and all the leaders in the West who basically wanted to go into these balkanized regions and bomb the shit out of them so they can go in and bring in their multinational corporations and rebuild them, right? So, but it's a lot more different than that. And we have a threat in our hands. But the threat is not just what's out there. There's also a threat that has been, how do I say this, introduced into our system. And it's a much more devious threat. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute or two. But what I wanted to also bring up is I wanted to talk about this idea, like in the Gnostic religion, right? In the Gnostic religion, or the Gnostic belief system, Jesus, as we know him, right? He is not on the cross. Like, that is somebody else, and it is not one of the guys that gets up there. One of the three people that gets up there and gets crucified. In the Gnostic tradition, he removes himself from the equation. And so whoever that person is an imitation of Christ. Now, there was a small book written by Thomas Kempis called The Imitation of Christ, which has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with imitating the life of Christ. And it's all about suffering and, self-flagellation and all that shit. I read it when I was in college. On my quest towards enlightenment. Let me pick up this Imitation of Christ book. And I start reading, like, what? I'm not interested in this at all. This is a little hardcore, man. I'm just not into this self-flagellation thing. But anyway, in the Gnostic tradition, he gets off the cross. It's a little bait and switch there, right? And I think we're kind of experiencing that now. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So we have been clamoring the people, have been clamoring for what? Justice for a while now. And in the Q world, there's a cast of characters, there's a theme, child abduction, adrenochrome, underground bases, right? All that stuff. And, people have been really kind of inculcated, conditioned, and a lot of that stuff is real, by the way. A lot of it is real, and they're exposing it and they're bringing it up, which is what happens. And then what do? They discredit it. It's sort of like, we're going to show you that there is this thing called the devil, and then we'll discredit you for believing in the devil, right? It's just like what they did with Joe McCarthy. We're going to show you that communism is real. We're going to show you that it has infiltrated, and then when we're done, we're going to discredit you for believing in that. So this is what they do. This is they can reveal certain occult principles, or they can reveal things through an occult principle, and then once you realize that that's happening, then they turn the table. Aha! Tricks on you. We're going to discredit you for believing them. And the CIA had a word for it. It's called conspiracy theories. It's a phrase. So a lot of people have been wanting proof, evidence, capture some kind of blood. Now, there's at least one laptop that has been infamous. And that laptop is not the Hunter Biden laptop. That was the Anthony Weiner laptop. Now, supposedly the Anthony Weiner laptop has information on it that theoretically was the end result of a number of New York PD being either suicided or maybe even taking their own life. Who knows? There are a number of people associated with that laptop that did not meet a peaceful end to their existence, and in fact, an accelerated and an abrupt one. Not only is there the Weiner laptop, but there's an entire treasure trove of information associated with Jeffrey Epstein. We saw the drone videos of the FBI going down into Epstein's island and cleaning house. They went to his place in New Mexico and cleaned house. They went to his, 7-story apartment or whatever in New York City to clean house. They have all this information. They have all this evidence that they've gathered, and probably a lot of it on computers as well. Right? So we have Epstein and we have Weiner. But what do we get? We get Hunter Biden. We get Hunter Biden. We get Hunter Biden, and we get essentially the same kind of narrative in some ways. Right? Children, underage. There's also been links to Hunter Biden with child trafficking, drugs, and so what I'm trying to make a comparison here with is this idea that in the Gnostic tradition, Jesus, the great Magi, tricks people, and he tricks the Sanhedrin, and he tricks the Roman centurions. And that's not him on the cross. Whatever you want to think about who that guy was or whatever, this is part of that narrative. Okay. So what's happened is that we've been kind of given sort of the goods, right? Because people have been wanting justice, man. They want justice. They want to smell, the blood is in the water. But instead of getting Epstein, and instead of getting Weiner, and instead of getting these other people that are associated with them, what do we get? We get Hunter Biden. So there's a substitute there. There's this substitute kind of bait and switch. Now, I'm not saying that the stuff on the Hunter Biden computer and CCP stuff is not valid. I think it is, and I think it has a lot of merit, but it's not Weiner. It's not who's connected to that laptop, and it's certainly not Epstein. And we're not talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, right? We're talking about Hunter Biden. So what they've done is they've managed to kind of placate the public. The salaciousness, the visceral kinds of details, all the things that we might associate with Jeffrey Epstein and Anthony Weiner now become manifest through Hunter Biden and those 3 laptops. You see what's happened here? So they're giving people a little bit of blood on the bread for their circus. This is what's happened. And I'm not saying that there isn't a there. Of course there's a there. Of course there's a there. But they have satiated the public to some degree. So that we're not talking about Epstein. So that we're not talking about the Weiner laptop. We're not talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. Hunter Biden has become the focus. He has been, in a negative sense, the imitation of Christ in this regard, right? This is what's happened. So it's performing a function and a role. And if it gets to the core or something, hey, great. Good. Even better. We'll see. We'll see in the upcoming days and weeks. But, we have seen a bait and switch. We've seen a bit of a bait and switch here. So we're getting somebody, we're getting a scalp. Right? People are getting a scalp. It's Hunter Biden's scalp. And maybe Joe's, and maybe ultimately the CCP-controlled Democratic Party. We'll see. We'll see. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? The Hunter switch is like going to see Roger Waters, and he only plays all those stuff. Secret, man, you kill me. You kill me. Right, you just want to hear him bust out brick in the wall, or and he's just playing this. That's so fucking funny. That is so funny. Randy Q and I, same agent in the 90s. When our agent got married, we danced the night away. Oh my God, that's a great story. Jennifer, was he cool? Was Randy crazy cool? I want Randy Quaid as my neighbor. I want, although where he lives looks too cold for me. A little too cold. Persian scribe, I'll pray for the pollsters to work and count. I think maybe the looser concept has been co-opted a long time ago. I'd be terrified of Israeli technology, not the Chinese. But, oh, well, CS. Funny you should broach that, because guess what? That is where we are going to go. I'm going to show you guys something. And where is it? I know I have it up here. Okay, so I want to credit and thank Glenn Streeter for sending me this link. Okay, because this is exactly what CS is talking about. However, Trump is spending his final hours before election night in my hometown, Grand Rapids, Michigan, in Davos Stronghold. There was a Jewish cemetery there vandalized with Trump. I want to talk about what's going on in Europe too. There's some interesting things going on in Europe. And maybe, well, I'm not sure if I can connect the dots with where I'm going, but thank you for bringing that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna show this to you guys, and let me bring this up here. And this is exactly what CS was talking about. Meet the IDF-linked cybersecurity group protecting U.S. hospitals, pro bono. So this is by Whitney Webb, and she's done great work. I like Whitney's stuff. Now, I've talked about Unit 8200, and I've talked about Paul Singer before. Paul Singer is a fairly majority, well, he's a high minority shareholder in Twitter and sits on the board. And Paul Singer does not buy into companies just to be a passive observer. Trust me on that. Paul Singer essentially ruined Cabela's and ruined the town that Cabela's supported for years by forcing Cabela's into a merger with Bass Pro Shops, a company that Paul Singer had purchased. And it was a hostile takeover and completely ruined Cabela's. They basically said, look, Cabela's is going to be run out of the Bass Pro Shop now. So they shut everything in Cabela's and the town associated with Cabela's down. And that town had real estate, it had jobs, it had people, and now it's a fucking wasteland. Okay. Paul Singer is behind this. Paul Singer essentially recruits members from Unit 8200 and begins to insert them into tech companies across the U.S. Here's the story. Meet the IDF-linked cybersecurity group protecting U.S. hospitals pro bono, meaning that they like you too. No, that's not true. They're doing it for free. Anonymous volunteers. Oh. From an opaque group founded by former commander of Israel's Unit 8200, have been granted access to some of the most critical private and public networks in the U.S. healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors with the help of U.S. federal agency now run by a former Microsoft executive. Now, this is inside of the Trump administration. Please be aware of this. This is the other side of it, and I've got to be able to bring this stuff up. Right? We have to look at the truth to the best degree possible. Be as clear and as clean with the expression or the exploration of truth that we can. We leave no side untouched or unturned to the best of our ability. Since the coronavirus began in earnest early this year, the strain on hospitals in the U.S. And around the world has been the subject of a considerable number of media reports. However, hardly any media attention has been given to the dramatic and unsettling changes that have been made to hospital and healthcare information technology, IT systems, and infrastructure under the guise of helping the U.S. healthcare system cope with the surge in data as well as an unsettling uptick in cyber attacks. Over the past several months, 80% of healthcare institutions in the U.S. have reported being targeted by some sort of cyber attack, ranging from minor to severe. Well, gee, I guess who is staging those cyber attacks? I wonder who could be staging those cyber attacks. Anyway, what do we have here? Okay, let's see where you go. But most of the attempts have been aimed at illegally acquired moves of patient data, including the recent hacks of hospitals in Chicago and Utah. About 20% of the hacks and cyber attacks reported by hospitals and medical facilities since March directly affected the facility's capacity to function optimally, with a much smaller percentage of those including ransomware attacks. So the problem here is that modern American Western healthcare has wedded itself so directly to computerized systems, thermal imaging, scans, you name it, right? They have embraced this fusion of a certain type of technological medicine that now they have to essentially do a deal with the devil so that they can keep their technological relationship with their practice safe. It's all linked together. All right. One of the reasons for the increase in the success of these attacks has been the fact that more healthcare IT workers are working remotely, as well as the fact that many IT staffers have been laid off or let go completely. In several recent instances, the removal of entire hospital system IT staffs have been tied to a larger effort by the Department of Health and Human Services to consolidate control over patient data, including coronavirus-related data, with the assistance of secret government contracts with long-standing ties to HHS. The surge of cyber attacks. So basically, I think what they're saying there is that there are people who are aggrieved and they want to take it out in the hospitals, sort of like the postal worker that got laid off. The surge of cyber attacks combined with major budget cuts has made hospitals even more vulnerable, as many are compelled to do more with less. As a result, there's been a renewed push for the improvement of cybersecurity in hospitals, clinics, and other healthcare institutions throughout the country over the course of the coronavirus. Amid this backdrop, an odd group of cyber threat intelligence analysts with ties to the U.S. government, Israeli intelligence, and tech giant Microsoft have volunteered. I tell you, the Israelis have such a great heart. You know, when they go into places like Haiti, they go in there and they volunteer to help people out. Right? They go in there and they volunteer to help people out. What they do when they volunteer, that's a whole other story. But, there's a great spirit of volunteerism there. Amid this backdrop, an odd group of cyber intelligence, threat intelligence, analysts with ties to the U.S. government, Israeli intelligence, tech giant Microsoft have volunteered to protect U.S. healthcare institutions for free. Nothing is for free. And have even directly partnered with U.S. federal agencies to do so. They have already recently expanded to offer their services to governments and social media platforms to target, analyze, and neutralize alleged disinformation campaigns related to the coronavirus. Okay, so now we're not about protecting. They're not about protecting the infrastructure of a hospital's IT system, protecting the patient's information, data, etc. No, they're going to go one step further. They're going to get into social media platforms to target, analyze, and neutralize alleged disinformation campaigns related to the coronavirus. So they're invested in propping up the idea of the virus. While these analysts have claimed to have altruistic motives, its members who have identified themselves publicly have notably dedicated much of their private sector careers to blaming nation states, namely Iran, but also China, for hacking and most recently for cyber attacks related to the corona crisis, as well as the 2020 presidential campaign. These individuals and their employees rarely, if ever, make their reasons for assigning blame to state actors available to public scrutiny, and also have close ties to the very governments, namely the U.S. and Israel, that have been attempting to gin up hostilities with those countries in recent years, particularly Iran, suggesting a potential conflict of interest. There will never be a war with Iran. Never. Never. And the reason why is that unless, of course, they're into some sort of sacrificial kind of symbolism, there are a lot of practicing Jews in Iran. A lot. And they get along just fine living in Iran. So I seriously doubt that Iran will always be one of those boogeymen. I don't think there'll be a war with Iran. It's part of a pantomime, right? The Cyber Justice League, calling themselves the cyber version of Justice League, the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Intelligence CTI League, was created earlier this year in March and has described itself as the first global volunteer emergency response community, defending and neutralizing cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities to the life-saving sectors related to the current COVID-19 pandemic. It all sounds so altruistic. They now claim to have over 1,000 members hailing from 76 different countries. According to their website, they seek to protect medical organizations, public healthcare facilities, and emergency organizations from threats from the cyber domain and offer their services pro bono to major hospitals, healthcare, and pharmaceutical companies, as well as U.S. law enforcement and federal agencies. Hey, why not? Let's throw them in there too. Upon their creation, they sent an open letter to the healthcare community offering to volunteer their time and efforts to mitigate cyber threats, protect our own healthcare, protect our healthcare system. It's an extortion racket. Sort of like, again, you go to the neighborhood and somebody, you go to sleep one night, this is Little Italy. You go to sleep one night, you wake up the next day and, your windows are broken, your shit is stolen, they pissed and defecated on your floor, and you're just sitting there going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And a couple hours later, some dude walks in and says, oh, Luigi, this is too bad. This is terrible. Who did this to you? I don't know. I worked so hard. For all of this. I do not understand. That would hurt nobody. I have no one. It's Luigi. Don't worry. There are people who can help you. I know some people who can help you. And they can keep this from happening to you. Really? Really? Yes. And they will only do so for a very, very small fee. Just a small fee. Oh, I'd be so grateful. Don't worry. I will talk to some of my friends, and I will see what we can do, and we will, and perhaps they will send someone over to to show you and to tell you how they can be of assistance to you. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, we know what happened. I mean, the dude, basically created the situation to begin with. It's called extortion. It's called a racket, racketeering. Hello. So you create the threat. Problem, hey, there's a threat here. The reaction is, oh my God, what am I going to do? And the solution is, the guy who created the threat, hey, I got the solution. Okay. So I could go on and on and on. I'm going to put the link here. Whitney Webb, I think, does really great work. It's Clear Sky and the manufactured Iranian threat. It's all BS. The whole thing with Iran is BS too. So there's a lot going on here with this. And so CS, you're absolutely right. That cybersecurity infrastructure, that is the spine of, a lot of what's happening when it comes to that kind of protection, data gathering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Israel has been running the NSA's computer program, data gathering and analytics for years. They also, Israel, if I'm not mistaken, was also running the security for Fukushima and a number of other nuclear reactors. So you're starting to see a pattern here, right? You're starting to see a pattern. It is a couple layers down. Who's running the cyber infrastructure across the planet, whether it's healthcare, where it comes to information data gathering, and power grids. Like who's really controlling the flow of information data, right? And what are they doing with it? I think that's the big question, and there is very little transparency around it. Paul Singer is a big player in that world. That's Paul Singer's baby. That's his baby. That's what he does. And that's what he's very much invested in. Because if you can control the information, the flow of information, you can control the world. Bottom line, you can control the world. You can create a threat. You can fix a threat. You can create a future solution. You can create a future dilemma based on the fact that you know that you can create the what's what I'm looking for, the results or the effects of that future dilemma, and look prophetic and oracular while doing it. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So CS, thank you for bringing that up. I've been wanting to share that link for a couple of days now, and that was absolutely the right time to bring it home. But there's always the people. There's always the people. I want to show this for my buddy Masaki, who has a very interesting connection with the country of Brazil. We're not guinea pigs. Brazilians protest Sao Paulo governor's mandatory vaccination push. People are not into this shit. Right? They're not into it. They're not into it. Western media outlets like the New York Times would have their readers believe that the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, is a madman reviled by his own people, while attributing his historic electoral victory to some kind of fluke or even worse, judicial meddling, to keep corrupt ex-president Lula from winning another term. The reality, of course, is that Bolsonaro, like President Trump, has devoted core following who would back him over virtually any challenger. They both happen to be scientists. And despite all those reports about Brazil's collapsing healthcare system, more than 300 demonstrators gathered on the main commercial thruway in Sao Paulo to protest state governor João Doria's push for mandatory vaccinations using a vaccine developed by China's Sinovac. Anyway, the world has been put on full tilt boogie, right? The world is on full tilt, and we're going to see basically how full tilt the ride gets today, right? How it's going to happen today. I want to talk about the situation in Europe. Apparently, there's all these coordinated now Muslim attacks in Europe, especially in France. Now, what's happening in Europe is that people are fucking sick and tired of the lockdown, and guess what they're doing? They're rioting. They're absolutely rioting. Okay, they are rioting, and what happens? Well, guess what? you have another threat being introduced into the system. Now, who's perpetrating that threat? It has Muslim written all over it, but you never know. You never know who's involved. You never know really what's involved. There are attacks that happen that really haven't been real attacks, and we know this to be true. We know this to be true, even though the press confirmed that they were real attacks, theoretically, and even though there were theoretically people who died. In many cases, that really wasn't the case at all. It wasn't the case at all. And what really happened is somewhere between fiction and reality, right? So anytime the spirit of the public says, we've had enough, guess what happens? They bring in an event. They're bringing a threat. They're bringing a false flag. Here in this country, just as people were getting sick of the fucking restrictions, and they're starting to now gather together and protest and honk their horns and, get out in front of the state capitol in California to protest against Newsom. Guess what happens? George Floyd happens. In Hong Kong, right? A few years worth of protesting. What happens? Coronavirus. Same thing that happens with the Gilets jaunes. So people again are raising their voices in Europe, and now they're having the terrorist action go down, so they can really shut a country down now. Oh boy, if people had any doubt about the corona pandemic and they were not into it, and they were like, we're done with this, we don't want to stay at home, we don't want to wear a mask, well, we're gonna now throw in the terror threat. And because there's a terror threat now, they're going to bring the terror threat back. You see, corona had replaced the terror threat. That's what happened. Terrorism went away. After Baghdadi and whatever, Soleimani, after those guys were killed, I think those were sort of symbolic. Those were symbolic of the end of terrorism. It's like, okay, war on terror is done. We won. Right? We won. But now there's a new threat, and the new threat is this unseen terror, the existential threat. That's what the new threat is. But apparently, that's not working so well. So they got to bring the old threat back. And they either have to incite the people to who are involved in that community to carry out the old threat, or it's probably something a little bit different than what the media is actually telling us. In either case, now the old threat returns. Oh, now we have the palpable old threat of the flesh and blood terrorists, even though we'll never see them. We don't know really who they are. Maybe we'll get a picture of them, but will that picture actually be real, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know where I'm going with this, right? So they're bringing the old threat out to reinforce the new threat. That's what it's about. So now they're working hand in hand. Old threat, new threat, old threat, new threat. There you go. It's psychological warfare. Therefore, whoever holds the information can do it both ways. Absolutely. Corona is the new terrorism, but it's not winning, right? People are not afraid of something they can't see, ultimately. But would they be afraid of somebody blowing up a building or beheading somebody, like viscerally in public? Oh, well, now you're getting their attention, right? Now you're getting their attention. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? I totally agree in Brito. Anything else? Bear flag republic will rise again. PSYOPs running all over Europe. Absolutely, Ian. 100%. Seem to be Chechen Muslims too in these recent ones, which is a whole new twist. Right. You know who was Chechen? Were the Tsarnaev brothers. They were Chechen. That was a whole weird thing, man. Boston fucking Marathon. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev and his brother. Weird. And their uncle being basically married to the daughter of the CIA field office in Chechnya. Like his nephews were like 2 degrees away from the fucking CIA. Okay. You know, are they even dead? Is that really even Dzhokhar Tsarnaev? We don't know anything anymore. All we know, for the most part, is what they conveniently tell us and back up again and again and again and again with fictitious statements and fake personas. Right? Okay. I want to play you guys something. Absolutely CIA assets. Total. If the war on terror is done, we can bring all our troops home. Well, you know, I think Trump wants to do that. That's Eric. What's going on, Eric? We need to talk. Eric, can you send me an email? There's an idea I have. I have an idea, Eric, that I want to run by you. Please send me an email. Okay, it's good seeing you. Heavy chemtrails here. Yeah, the chemtrails are back. It's seasonal. We had them here yesterday. The chemtrails are seasonal. I've been telling this to people for years. They start firing up the chemtrail machine in the fall here in the U.S. So it goes through the fall, it goes through the winter, you know, pretty much goes up to about as far as they can into early spring, and then they shut it down. And we had a great summer, blue skies, no chemtrails. And for all you people in the Southern Hemisphere, guess what? You get a break now. It is seasonal, and they're always spraying when there's heavier cloud cover. Yep, always. Always, always, always. Tucker goes, Trump is a living indictment of the people who run this country. That's an interesting quote, isn't it? When I lived in Denver, chemtrails were all year long. Bob Seger wrote a song about that. It's called Get Out of Denver, Baby. Get Out of Denver. Tucker has controlled opposition. He said to stop beating Hunter Biden while he's down. I think Tucker is about as close as it gets to having somebody reveal aspects or elements of the truth. But I would agree with you that Tucker has marching orders and Tucker has limits. And that was one of them. That was absolutely 100% one of them. He has his marching orders and he has limits. He was told to stand down against Hunter Biden. And a lot of people said, well, that's classy and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, to some degree it is. I mean, you know, he knew his wife. They were neighbors, apparently. So it's probably personal. But me, frankly, it's like, fuck it. Let's take no quarter. Let's take no quarter. Like these people, do you think the so-called left would take the high road or have any kind of compassion or empathy for Tucker Carlson at any point along the way? The answer is, you know, pardon my language, fuck no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. I want to play you something. You know, I like to try to end on a high note. All right. So I found these guys on the internet over the weekend. But I'm going to play this one video. Okay. I'm going to play this one video because I think it's a really interesting video. It's a musical video. And there's a group called the MAGA Boys. And they're a hip hop group. But there's one guy in the group that I really like. And I love his lyrics. And I'm going to show you why I love his lyrics. And this is why, and you know, and when Trump was getting elected, I always said it's not about Trump, but it's about the energy. And I see this guy as kind of, you know, being in this kind of, he's drafting, like how they draft in NASCAR. But there's something else going on here. Now, I want to play this video. And it's a little early in the day for hip hop for me, but I actually really like this tune. And listen to the lyrics. To me, they're very interesting. Let me find it. So the guy's name is Tyson James. This is the guy that I think is interesting. Is this Tyson? No, hold on a second. It's let me go back here. Hold on. MAGA Boys. Let me see if I can find this thing. Bryson Gray. Bryson Gray. This is the guy. Let me find. I think this is it. Let me see. This is it. All right. Yeah, okay. This is it. All right. This is 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Look, I don't know if this thing is a psyop or not, but I got to tell you, it's kind of interesting. All right. And I do like the lyrics. It's sort of like a flip on. It's like a hardcore flip on Black Lives Matter. So check this out. Listen to some of the lyrics. All right, here we go. This is going to be MAGA stepping, and the guy's name is Bryson Gray. All right, so let's get our hip hop groove on. Here we go.
Wow. Yo, blood. Hey, try 2020, I'm about that. Touch my head, I doubt that. 2-8.
Hold on.
They never go without that. These they trying to shut us down, but I know we gon' bounce back. I rep that red, white, and blue. Just watch how we bounce back. Can't wait to see this when we win the election. Easy's on my piece, so I'm mega stepping. Tell all the liberals I'm keeping my weapon. Been making head just to show them I'm flexing like ooh, 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 ooh. Start the beat, ayy. I'm gonna keep it simple. They let Planned Parenthood stay open, but said churches run essential. And I know it's hard to keep your faith in God, but it seems like the world against you. But that word is too official, like a referee with a whistle. Ooh. I'm not a victim, cause I am a victim. Not a loser, cause I am a winner. And they say I'm a sellout because they disagree. Call me coon, Uncle Tom, but at least I can say I'm free. Yo, man. Hey, try 2020, I'm about that. Touch my head, I doubt that. 2-8 never go without that. These they trying to shut us down, but I know we gon' bounce back. I rep that red, white, and blue. Just watch how we bounce back. Can't wait to see this when we win the election. Easy's on my piece, so I'm mega stepping. Tell all the liberals I'm keeping my weapon. Been making head just to show them I'm flexing like ooh, 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 ooh. Hey, try 2020, I'm about that. Touch my head, I doubt that. 2-8 never go without that. These they trying to shut us down, but I know we gon' bounce back. I rep that red, white, and blue. Just watch how we bounce back. Can't wait to see this when we win the election. Easy's on my piece, so I'm mega stepping. Tell all the liberals I'm keeping my weapon. Been making head just to show them I'm flexing like ooh, 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 ooh.
There's another one where he's talking about, so I can find his channel. He's talking about not taking the Bill Gates vaccine. This is the official video of the MAGA boys. All right, here we go. Let me play this in.
You're 100% for Trump.
150,000%.
Fine, nigga.
Who would you be for, Obama? What did he do? I'll wait. You tell me one thing he did.
We some mega boys, we got mega joy. If you try to silence us, we make mega noise. We ain't got no time for the beta boys. Say it with a mega voice. 27 yes, I'm a mega boy, stomping in the mega hat. Try and take my gun, believe me, I'ma take it back. I know some blacks with Trump, you could call him mega black. Culture vulture on the mega track, I'ma pay him back. Ay, you don't want the beef, we ain't the coward type. We ain't no Antifa, we know how to fight. I'm a nitty gritty alpha, you a flower type. I'm about that action, you a fraction, you about the hype. Ay, and I'ma serve the boss. My one and only job is to point you to the cross. You can bend a knee, now I make it then. I made a vow, he in the clouds with the power in his hands. And we don't need the luck, forget about Pelosi, Brody, we don't need the truck. I'ma keep it a buck, hop up on the train and get left. I campaign, stay in his lane, I'ma bring it to my death, man. Calvin.
What up, though?
Okay, listen, bro. I need you to talk to the people, bro. You gotta go easy on them because you know how the snowflakes get, and we don't want to offend.
Bet. Drip or drip out your scene, it's a trip scene. Illegals hopping over borders, that's a crime scene. Hold tight, we on the coast, it's the Trump train. Americans with the knowledge, all facts, man. Blow steam out they top, she a lumberjack. Oops, I mean, sir, so let me double back. Check the charts, hold them up, I wanna see the stats. Trump got a lot of voters and they looking black. Internet in your pocket, you can search the facts. But you a libtard, you never heard of that. Logic is a virus, you took the vaccine. Got you limping, walking slow, Maxine. You just a soy boy, oh you oppressed now? See, I'm a patriot, I got a vest now. Taking bullets from Antifa with my chest out. 7 in my heart, he from the best mouth. Bryson. I should have known you were gonna wear that hat. Rockin' MAGA, but you black.
We're all part of the MAGA gang with the official Antifa repellent. Yes, sir. Come on, man. I know what's going on. MAGA boys in the field.
Man, we about to try to kill this stage and see what's going on. MAGA boys out in Taylor, Arizona.
But dear congregations, Heavenly Father, we're so very thankful that we're able to be out here and be here with the MAGA boys and that.
All right, those are these are the voices of Gen Z. Okay, let's get back to the song. They love them, they're into them. Let's get back to the tune. Here we go.
Boys today.
And they saying to that MAGA boy, in this world, you got two choices. Build or destroy, they got a plan. Cause they take our mans and they fill them with soy. They indoctrinating all of our kids. They sit back and enjoy, they got a mission. They enjoy the division, who's losing, whoever's winning. Confusing our men and women to the point where they don't know if they men or if they are women. Or which back from next door when they just can't hold they piss in the press from the Olympics. Everybody just playing the victim while they in position to control radio, television, making you hate guns so they can do away with them. Then after that, they know there's no longer a way to defend them. But I'm a warrior for Christ. I'm saving the vision, persecuted, but nonetheless, I made my decision. I fully believe in the word. I guess they made me a Christian. I die behind that. So tell them either way, I ain't switching on gang.
On gang. The proof's in the pudding, people. Donald Trump, the first black president. I don't care what nobody say. Black unemployment low, opportunity zones. The list goes on. Come on, man.
We some mega boys, we got mega joy. If you try to silence us, we make mega noise. And we ain't got no time for the beta boys. Say it with a mega voice. Hater, we some mega boys. We some mega boys, we got mega joy. If you try to silence us, we make mega noise. And we ain't got no time for the beta boys. Say it with a mega voice. Hater, we some mega boys.
All the communities that's messed up are all ran by Democrats. Then when you look at the places that run by Republicans, it's nice, it's clean, people are living, they got jobs. But then when you look at look what the Democrats did, AOC.
So there's some interesting lyrics in here, and I think this is right here. I'm gonna play this.
Okay, listen, bro. I need you to talk to the people, but bro, you gotta go easy on them because you know how the snowflakes get, and we don't want to offend.
Bet. Drip or drip out your scene, it's a trip scene. Illegals hopping over borders, that's a crime scene. Hold tight, we on the coast, it's the Trump train. Americans with the knowledge, all facts, man. Blow steam out they top, she a lumberjack. Oops, I mean, sir, so let me double back. Check the charts, hold them up, I wanna see the stats. Trump got a lot of voters and they looking black. Internet in your pocket, you can search the facts. But you a libtard, you never heard of that. Logic is a virus, you took the vaccine.
Hear that? You get the virus and you take the vaccine. These guys are anti-vaccine, by the way. They're anti-vaccine. This Bryson Gray, who I've seen in some of his other videos, he basically says, I ain't taking the Bill Gates vax. Okay, so this is an interesting kind of development. I'm not sure if this is what Trump really wants. I'm sure he loves the press and everything, but these guys are kind of evolving along a very interesting line. They're pro 2A. This one guy, Bryson Gray, is with Black Guns Matter. They're anti. They're like, they keep referring to soy boys. They keep referring to gender confusion. Right? They are not into the vaccine. Clearly, they're announcing themselves as Christians. Whatever that is, right? But I think this is interesting. And to me, this is about the energy. And, they're drafting along this kind of Trump train thing. But there's this kind of subculture around an idea that is more independent and less dependent upon a common narrative, right? The greater good. And these are kind of they're individual/individualist perspectives. Let me just continue to play this out.
Got you limping, walking slow. Maxine, you just a soy boy. Oh, you oppressed now? See, I'm a patriot. I got a vest now. Taking bullets from Antifa with my chest out. 7 in my heart. He from the best mouth. Bryson.
Anyway, I just wanted to play that for you because, for one, the production quality is actually pretty good on those tunes, and number two, some of the lyrics and the words are, they're interesting. No, who else is singing about, not taking the vaccine, right? This is really hardcore charged political material. Who else is talking about, I don't hear this in the fucking country and Western world, by the way. To me, country and Western music is, I live out here and I listen to the country Western channel on my truck when I drive around. And I like some of the songs. They're witty, funny, sort of heartfelt. But country Western music has always been chicken shit music to me. They never take anything on. It's basically order follower music. And I hope if I offend somebody, you don't take it personally. But they're talking about not taking a fucking vaccine. They're talking about keeping their guns. And again, these are minor things in the grand scheme of everything, right? They're minor things in the grand scheme of everything. But at the very least, they're at least talking about it. So props to those dudes and kind of, whatever it is they're creating. I think it's cool. And I like the fact that they're calling people out. And do your thing, man. MAGA boys, maybe at some point you change the name, rebrand yourself, perhaps not. Do whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not. But just keep doing your thing. I think it's pretty cool. All right. What else do we have here? Never thought of it. Yeah, country western is just chicken shit music, man. I've always had a beef with country western music. But even like the Outlaws of country western. Oh, the Outlaws. Oh, yeah. Like Willie Nelson, some fucking outlaw. He gets high. Wow, what an outlaw. The only guy that, in my estimation, was worth his salt was Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard understood shit. He understood things. The other guy that's kind of in that camp a little bit is Waylon Jennings. But he doesn't hold the candle to Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard knew about chemtrails. Merle Haggard was informed. He was not the most pleasant person, but he was informed. The other guy that I think is mildly interesting, only because he has perhaps a bit more of a global perspective and is too smart for country and Western music, is Steve Earle. And if Steve Earle wanted to really craft some, lyrics to kind of, oh, you know who has a tune out now? Okay, now I'm playing DJ. Hold on now. There's a tune out now. Let's see. I gotta find this thing. Hold on. Let me see. This just came across my screen. And thank you all for hanging in. It's a bit of a long show today. But apparently there's a lot to talk about. Van Morrison has a new song out. And it has to do with the coronavirus, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find this thing. Yeah, check this out. Check this out. Oh, it's a joke. I actually thought he actually had a song about coronavirus. No more lockdown. Oh, here we go. Here we go, right here. Check this out. You guys got to hear this. I don't care if I get a strike, whatever. You got to hear this. This is awesome. Van the Man coming through. Check this out. This is somebody who's got some fucking cojones. Here we go. Let's do this. Here we go.
No more lockdown. No more government overreach. No more fascist bullies disturbing our peace. No more taking of our freedom and our God-given rights. Pretending it's for our safety when it's really to enslave. Who's running our country? Who's running our world? Examine it closely and watch it unfurl. No more lockdown, no more threats, no more Imperial College scientists making up crooked facts. No more lockdown, no more pulling the wool over our eyes. No more celebrities telling us what we're supposed to feel. No more status quo. Put your shoulder to the wheel. No more lockdown. 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 No more government overreach. No more fascist bullies disturbing our peace. No more taking our freedom and our God-given rights. Pretending it's for our safety when it's really to enslave. Who's running our country? Who's running our world? Examine it closely and watch it unfurl. No more lockdown, no more threats, no more Imperial College scientists making up crooked facts. No more lockdown, no more pulling the wool over our eyes. No more celebrities telling us how we're supposed to feel. No more status quo. Gotta put your shoulder to the wheel. No more lockdown. 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 No more lockdown.
Yeah, he still has it, man. Van still has the voice. That was great. That is fucking great. Way to go, Van. He still has the voice. Incredible. Now, can we get Van Morrison and Bryson James of the Mega Boys to do a duet? There we go. That would be really cool. Really cool. All right. Little inspiration for you there. There are other people in the world that share your sentiments. There are other people in the world that share your feelings of wanting to be truly free. There are other people in the world who are sick and tired of the tyranny of the mind. There are other people in the world who share the same kind of sentiments that you do. And they're really out of a place of love and not hate, but defending their own personal sanctity and, for all intents and purposes, sovereignty. You are not alone. Remember that. And I just gave you two very disparate musical varieties of that flavor. Okay, I may be back later tonight. I may just go live stream later tonight. So if I do, it'll probably be somewhere around the 7 p.m. period. That'd be Central Standard Time. So I may just jump on and see what's happening, and we could all hang out and we can talk. I think a lot of you would like that. So why don't we just make it a point to be here? I'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight on this channel. And if you want to jump in, and there's a whole other group of people that'll be able to join us as well who are probably working, and it'll be kind of cool. So let's have a little election night party. Bring a snack, bring a beverage, bring whatever you want, and let's have some fun. Okay, I'll see you later tonight. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. Take good care of yourself, and at the end of the day, we're going to win. We're going to win this thing. It may not be today. It may not be next week. It may not be next month. At the end of the day, we are going to win. And the consciousness on this planet is going to flip. And we are headed towards an absolutely beautiful golden age. It may not happen next year, next month, 3 years, 5 years. Right? But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm invested in it. I'm holding that space. I'm taking the best care I can of my body, my spirit, to be a part of it. And I invite you to do the very same thing. I'll see you guys later tonight. Bye for now.